Hey, it's Mrs. G, and today we're going to be using prepared slides, drawings, and pictures to explore the second of our 5 biological kingdoms, Protista. Let's do it. It's important to note first that Kingdom Protista is extremely diverse. It includes single-celled organisms, heterotrophs and autotrophs, multicellular organisms, healthy and harmful living things. So why are all of these seemingly unrelated organisms grouped into the same kingdom? Like the organisms in Kingdom Monera, protists are microorganisms, so they can only be seen using a microscope. Unlike Kingdom Monera, protists are eukaryotes, meaning their cells are more complex, containing individual organelles that must work together to keep the organism functioning. Kingdom Protista is split into 2 subkingdoms, which then each have their own phyla. Subkingdom Protozoa includes microorganisms that are eukaryotic, have some method of transportation, and are mostly heterotrophic. Subkingdom Algae includes microorganisms that are eukaryotic, have no independent transportation, and are mostly autotrophic. I say mostly because there are exceptions in both subkingdoms. The goal of this video is to show you a couple of examples from each subkingdom and the important parts of them so you get a general idea for this important kingdom. Let's start with an amoeba. My microscope wasn't giving me a very clear picture from my prepared slides, so I'll attempt to draw this one for you. I am by no means an artist, so this won't be very pretty, but it should at least get the idea across. Now, amoebas are protists with a generally round shape, but the really cool thing about most protists is that they have what's called pseudopods, meaning that they can extend parts of their structure into these weird kind of squiggly things. And so they're not round all of the time, really only when they're at rest. And these pseudopods will allow them to move around and also to ingest their food, which I'll show you in a little bit. So amoebas have a nucleus, which is an important organelle that contains their DNA, a complete set a complete genetic copy for every individual organism. So a complete set of all of their genetic information, their genes, their alleles, just everything that makes them what they are. Amoebas also have 2 different kinds of vacuoles, which makes them kind of unique. The first one I'm going to draw here are food vacuoles. Remember, a vacuole is just kind of like a holding place for some sort of substance. So food vacuoles are what they sound like. They're going to hold food for digestion. Maybe it's because the amoeba isn't able to digest it quite yet, or it's gotten too much food and it's not able to digest all of it at once. These are like nice storage containers to hold that food until the amoeba is ready to digest it. The second type of vacuole that amoebas have are called contractile vacuoles, and these serve as water regulators to release or intake water and maintain an ideal internal pressure for the organism. Amoebas also contain 2 different kinds of cytoplasm. Ectoplasm is more watery and it's found around the edge of the cell, and endoplasm is thicker and it fills up the rest of the cell. Okay, let's talk quickly about how amoebas use their pseudopods to ingest food items. So I'm drawing here kind of towards the bottom of the picture some sort of nutrients or food in the water that the amoeba is going to want to get a hold of. So what it's going to do is take a few of those pseudopods. So right now I'm going to start with the one on the right, and using dotted lines I'm going to show you how the amoeba actually extends one of its pseudopods and kind of engulfs that food item or goes around it. Once it's done that, it's going to take another pseudopod, so in this case the one on the left, and it's going to connect that pseudopod with the original pseudopod so that that food item has no chance of escape. Once it's done that, it's going to kind of encourage and push the food item in towards the center, towards the amoeba. The 2 pseudopods will then connect together, and it's going to pull it in and start digesting it. So it literally just engulfs its food. Okay, next up is one of those exceptions from subkingdom Protozoa, Euglena. These organisms contain chloroplasts, which allow them to perform photosynthesis, but they can also absorb nutrients from their surroundings. The picture I got from my microscope here is not super clear, so I apologize for that, but I did want to point out a couple of things about it. Euglena have flagella, which is like a tail, to help propel them through the water. Remember, that's an important part of this subkingdom. In addition to their cell membrane, there's another protective layer called the pellicle, which provides structure and support as this organism moves around. Since members of Euglena can perform photosynthesis, they also need to be able to absorb light, so they have a special region called the eye spot, which is for detecting light levels, whether it's low or high light or a good or bad time to perform photosynthesis. You can't see that very well in this image, but I promise you it's there. Finally, for the protozoans, I have an example from my microscope of a member of genus Volvox. These organisms live in colonies, are completely photosynthetic, and reproduce asexually. They represent diverse phyla, with some types causing extremely dangerous and even deadly diseases to humans, and some being necessary for life. Now, the second subkingdom of Protista, algae, is made up of aquatic, photosynthetic, eukaryotic organisms, meaning they grow in water environments, make their own food, and their cells contain membrane-bound organelles. While most people think that trees are responsible for most of the oxygen on Earth, the truth is that algae, a type of phytoplankton, releases up to 75% of the oxygen we breathe. It is responsible for so much more oxygen than the trees. It's also a major food source for many, many aquatic animals. Here's an example of a type of green algae called Spirogyra. These algae form colonies that can be up to dozens of inches long. Another example of an algae group called diatoms is shown here. Diatoms have extremely tough cell walls made out of the same chemical material as glass, and that allows them to survive through intense natural changes. One unique feature of diatoms are their oil spots. Most microorganisms would have a vacuole to store excess food for digestion, but diatoms actually convert that food into oil instead. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this video, or if you are interested in private tutoring in math and science over video or in person if you live in the Kansas City area, please don't hesitate to reach out to me via email, which will be on the screen. If this video is helpful to you, I would really appreciate you subscribing to my channel. And as I always said to my students before they left my classroom, be good, be safe, and make sure you come back with all of your limbs attached correctly.